So I was on the internet and came across an artist that modernized the uniforms of some early NFL teams that no longer exist today. Some of these are really intricate and I think they should be shared. So let's take a look. The Rock Island Independents was an NFL team from 1920 to 1925. Their name Independence came from the fact that the team did not have either a corporate sponsor or a membership in a football league when the team was created in 1907. Both of which was common for football teams in those years. The original logo and uniform featured a lot of green stripes, so the artist included that in these modernized uniforms. To me, these uniforms remind me of older New York Jets uniforms, and they're a little bit too plain for my taste. The Canton Bulldogs was an NFL team from 1920 to 1926. The Bulldogs was one of the first professional football teams created in 1905 and was the first professional football team that world-renowned athlete Jim Thorpe played on. In 1927, the Bulldogs were purchased and moved to Detroit to become the Detroit Wolverines until 1929. That year, Tim Mara, owner of the New York Giants, purchased the Wolverines team and absorbed the players into his franchise. The Bulldogs did have a logo back then, and like a lot of early NFL teams, used red, maroon, or burgundy for their jerseys. The artist chose to stay conservative with this modernized version of the Bulldogs jersey. The Dayton Triangles was an NFL team from 1920 to 1930. Their name, Triangles, came from the fact that the team recruited players from 3 factories in the Dayton, Ohio area. The Triangles are the first team to score points in an NFL game. As the sport grew, other teams began to use players from across the country, but the Triangles mainly had local players on the team, which did not help the record. Eventually, the team was sold and became the Brooklyn Dodgers. The Brooklyn Dodgers were built out of the remains of the Dayton Triangles and the Orange Tornadoes. The team's name came from Major League Baseball's Brooklyn Dodgers because both teams played in Ebbets Field in Brooklyn, New York. This team played from 1930 to 1944 until the name was changed and the team became the Brooklyn Tigers for the 1 year in 1944. That same year, a new franchise called the Boston Yanks started in the NFL. Their owner wanted to play in New York, which is the reason for the name, and he wanted to pay tribute to Notre Dame, so the team's uniforms were green and gold. As a result of World War II and a shortage of players, the Boston Yanks and the Brooklyn Tigers merged in 1945 to become known as the Yanks. The following year, the Brooklyn Tigers ceased operations, and the Boston Yanks resumed normal operations with former Tigers players. After a few years, the Boston Yanks ceased operations, and the New York Bulldogs became a franchise in the NFL from the remains of the Boston Yanks in 1949. The following year, the Bulldogs changed their name to the New York Yanks and stayed like that until 1952, where the team folded and the remains were sold to 2 owners from Dallas. These owners moved the team to Dallas to become the Dallas Texans. Unfortunately, the 1952 NFL season was the first and only season for the Dallas Texans because it folded afterwards and became the last NFL team to fold to this day. The Oorang Indians was an NFL team from 1922 to 1923 and played 2 seasons in the league. The team's name is more unique than some of the other teams I mentioned before. The Oorang part of the name was because the team's owner also owned the Oorang dog kennel. The Indians part is not a tribute name like you may think, but rather it describes the players on the team. This team was made up of only Native American players and was a traveling team, which was primarily used as an advertisement for the owner's dog kennel business. Between practices, players would train dogs and build crates to ship them in. They were the first team to have halftime shows, where players, including player coach Jim Thorpe, would have dogs perform tricks and have shooting exhibitions, with dogs retrieving the targets. There were Indian dances and tomahawk throwing demonstrations, and once in a while, a player would actually wrestle a bear. Natives from across the country would come to LaRue, Ohio to try out for the team because they knew the owner did not care about winning, so most of their free time was spent drinking and partying. The Duluth Eskimos was an NFL team from 1926 to 1927, but originally started as the Duluth Kellys in 1923. The Kellys name came from a sponsorship by the Kelly Duluth hardware store in Duluth, Minnesota. In 1926, the team lost the naming sponsor and changed the name to the Duluth Eskimos. It too was a traveling team and the first to create a team logo to promote a road trip. The owner sold the team back to the league and most of the players were absorbed by the Chicago Cardinals. The Frankfort Yellowjackets was an NFL team from 1924 to 1931. Before joining the NFL, the football team was a successful independent football team that oftentimes played against other NFL teams. The team played in Frankfort Stadium in the northeast part of Philadelphia and would gain fans quickly during their time in the NFL. Unfortunately, by 1931, the hardships from the Great Depression and a large fire in their stadium brought fan attendance way down and caused the team to fold. Football was still very popular in Philadelphia, and 2 years later, the Philadelphia Eagles joined the NFL and used much of the equipment that originally belonged to the Frankfort Yellow Jackets. The Providence Steam Roller, sometimes referred to as the Steam Rollers, was an NFL team from 1925 to 1933. The team was owned by Providence Journal's sports division and played in Providence, Rhode Island. Their name came from an editor of the Journal who overheard a fan say the opposing team is getting steamrolled. Due to roster turnover and the Great Depression, the team had to suspend operations in 1931. The Pottsville Maroons was an NFL team from 1924 to 1929. The team played in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. The name Maroons comes from when the team ordered jerseys to play in, and the local sporting goods supplier sent them maroon-colored jerseys. In their last season, their performance declined, so the owners sold the team and it was moved to Boston and became the Boston Bulldogs for the 1929 season, but folded after the season ended. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe if you're new, and share this video with a friend. Let me know in the comment section which one is your favorite uniform, and if I should do maybe like a part 2, I have some other jerseys and uniforms that I would like to show you guys. Make sure you check out one of these 2 videos on screen here. I think you might like it if you like this one, and thank you for watching once again.